late summer air hung heavy over the small coastal town of Havenridge, where the ocean whispered secrets to those who dared listen. Clara Ashwood stood at the edge of her porch, her brown hair catching the golden hues of the setting sun. At 34, she carried the kind of beauty that turned heads, sharp cheekbones, hazel eyes that shimmered with untold stories, and a smile that could melt even the coldest heart. Her husband, Daniel, adored her for it. He was a quiet man, a fisherman who spent his days battling the tides and his nights tracing the lines of her face as if committing them to memory. Their marriage had been steady for 12 years, a tapestry woven with threads of trust, laughter, and the occasional frayed edge smoothed over by time. But lately, something had shifted. Clara couldn't pinpoint when it began. Perhaps it was the way Daniel's hands lingered less, or the silences that stretched too long between them. She felt it like a splinter under her skin, subtle but persistent. Before we jump in, real quick, most of you who enjoy these videos still haven't subscribed. If you're one of them, please take a second to hit that button. It helps with channel growth so much and means more than you know. And if you're already subscribed, thank you. Now, let's begin. It was mid-August when she met Elias. He wasn't from Havenridge. He'd arrived with the traveling fair that set up camp on the outskirts of town every summer. Elias was a mechanic, his hands stained with grease, his dark eyes carrying a spark of mischief. He wasn't conventionally handsome. His jaw was too sharp, his nose slightly crooked, but there was a raw energy about him that pulled Clara in like a tide she couldn't resist. Their first encounter was accidental. Clara had gone to the fair with her niece Lily, who begged to ride the carousel. While Lily giggled atop a painted horse, Clara wandered toward the edge of the fairgrounds, drawn by the clatter of metal. There, under a canopy of strung lights, Elias was tinkering with a broken ride. His shirt clung to his back, sweat beading on his brow as he cursed under his breath. "Need a hand?" Clara asked, surprising herself with the boldness of her voice. He looked up, startled, then grinned. "Only if you know your way around a wrench." He didn't, but she stayed anyway, handing him tools as he worked. They talked about the sea, the stars, the way the world seemed to spin faster some days than others. By the time Lily tugged at her sleeve to leave, Clara felt a warmth she hadn't known in months. Next day, she returned alone. Then the day after that. Each visit stretched longer, the conversations deeper. Elias had a way of listening that made her feel seen, not just as Daniel's wife or Havenridge's golden girl, but as Clara, messy, curious, alive. She told herself it was harmless, a friendship, a distraction from the quiet unraveling of her marriage. But then came the night of the storm. The sky had been restless all day, gray clouds churning over the horizon. Daniel was out at sea, his boat rocking against waves he'd braved 100 times before. Clara paced their empty house, the wind rattling the windows like a warning. She didn't plan to leave, but her feet carried her to the fairgrounds anyway, where the ride stood still and the tents flapped wildly. Elias was there, securing a tarp over his workbench. His hair was damp, his jacket soaked through. "You shouldn't be out here," he shouted over the wind. "Neither should you," she shot back, stepping closer. Rain came then, sudden and fierce, driving them into the shelter of a storage shed. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of oil and wet wood. They stood inches apart, breathing hard, the storm a roaring curtain between them and the world. Clara's heart pounded not from fear, but from something she couldn't name. He reached for her first, his fingers brushing her cheek, tentative yet sure. She didn't pull away. When his lips met hers, it was like the storm had broken inside her, wild and unstoppable. They stumbled against the wall, hands fumbling, clothes peeling away in the dim light. It wasn't gentle or planned, it was desperate, collision of need and recklessness. For those fleeting moments, Clara forgot Daniel, forgot the life she'd built. There was only Elias, the heat of his skin, the rhythm of their shared breath. When it was over, they lay on a pile of tarps, the rain drumming above them. Guilt crept in slowly, a shadow stretching across her chest. She dressed in silence, avoiding his gaze. "This can't happen again," she whispered, more to herself than to him. Elias nodded, but his eyes said otherwise. He returned home before dawn, the storm fatting into a drizzle. Daniel's boat docked later that morning, and he greeted her with a tired smile, oblivious to the fracture she'd carved into their lives. Clara buried the memory of Elias beneath layers of routine, cooking dinner, folding laundry, kissing Daniel goodnight. But it lingered, a thread she couldn't untangle. Weeks passed, and the fair packed up, taking Elias with it. Clara thought that would be the end. She threw herself into repairing what she'd neglected with Daniel: date nights, long walks, whispered promises. He noticed the change, his touch growing warmer, his laughter returning. For a while, it felt like enough. Then the letter arrived. It was slipped under their door on a crisp October morning. No stamp, no return address. Clara's name was scrawled in unfamiliar handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper, the words jagged and uneven. "I can't stop thinking about you. I'm back in Havenridge. Meet me at the pier tonight." Her stomach dropped. She burned the letter in the sink, watching the edges curl into ash. But the words stayed, branded into her mind. She told herself she wouldn't go. She owed Daniel more than this. Yet, as the sun dipped below the horizon, she found herself pulling on her coat, her steps quick and quiet. The pier was deserted, the waves crashing against the pilings. Elias stood at the far end, a silhouette against the fading light. He turned as she approached, his expression unreadable. "I didn't think you'd come," he said. "I shouldn't have," she replied, her voice trembling. He stepped closer, and she saw it then, the weight in his eyes, the way his hands shook. "I'm not here to ruin you, Clara. I needed to see you, to know it wasn't a dream." Her resolve wavered. She could smell the salt on him, feel the pull of that night all over again. But before she could speak, a sound cut through the air, footsteps, heavy and deliberate. She turned, and there was Daniel, his face pale, his eyes wide with something between confusion and betrayal. "Clara," his voice broke on her name. Panic seized her. She hadn't heard him follow, hadn't thought he'd suspect. "Daniel, Who is he?" Daniel's gaze shifted to Elias, his fists clenching. Elias raised his hands, stepping back. "I'm nobody, I'll go." But Daniel wasn't listening. He lunged, grabbing Elias by the collar, shoving him against the railing. "What did you do with my wife?" "Stop it," Clara screamed, pulling at Daniel's arm. "It's not his fault." The words hung there, a confession she couldn't take back. Daniel froze, his grip loosening. Elias slipped free, disappearing into the shadows without a word. For a long moment, Daniel just stared at her, the wind whipping between them. "Tell me," he said finally, his voice hollow. "Tell me everything." She did, haltingly, tearfully. She spilled it all: the fair, the storm, the shed. She didn't soften it or make excuses. Daniel listened, his face a mask of pain, until she finished. Then he walked away, leaving her alone on the pier. Days that followed were a blur. Daniel moved into the guest room, his silence louder than any argument. Clara waited for him to leave her, to demand a divorce, but he didn't. Instead, he watched her, studying her as if searching for the woman he'd married. She cooked his favorite meals, left notes on the table, tried to bridge the chasm she'd created. He ate the food, read the notes, but said little. One night, As winter crept into Havenridge, Daniel sat her down. His hands were steady, his eyes clear. "I don't know if I can forgive you," he said, "but I don't want to lose you. Not yet." Clara blinked, tears spilling over. "Why?" "Because I still love you. And I think you still love me. But we can't pretend this didn't happen." They rebuilt slowly. Therapy, long talks, moments of anger and grace tangled together. Elias never returned, and Clara didn't seek him out. She learned to live with the scar she'd left on their marriage, a reminder of how close she'd come to losing everything. Years later, standing on that same porch, her auburn hair streaked with gray, Clara watched Daniel mend a fishing net. He caught her eye and smiled, a small, quiet thing, but real. The thread of their love had frayed, unraveled, and been rewoven. It wasn't perfect, but it held.